Hi everybody, it is Mikefield here, and we have the new patch notes on our hands. We'll talk about them in this video very briefly. And please, if you do enjoy yourselves, consider subscribing and follow me on Twitch, link below this video. So let's get started with the actual patch notes, shall we? And the very first change is going to concern the matchmaking. It's going to be relatively big because it's going to mean that you can get matched with people who are like somewhat stronger and somewhat weaker than you. And we've actually seen people who are, within the top 1k getting matched with top 20 players. It happened to me as well. I got matched with like one of those top 100. So it's going to get relatively scary for those people at the very top because we'll be fighting the very best. Though it's actually a good opportunity to learn as well and see how much better the better players are. And obviously, if you are working with the ELO system, if you are way weaker than your opponent, if you lose, your ELO losses are going to be negligible. So quite a good change actually, like with the player base, I think considerably shrinking due to the game being new and aging slowly. The second change is very, very big. Big nerf to Rus, big nerf to the French, of course, and quite a nice like indirect buff to the Abbasids and the English. So all civs who are really benefiting from this animal carcass carrying scouts, right? This is actually going to affect them quite a lot, meaning that they'll not be able to kind of safely get those scouts back to base. They'll have to probably just invest into some defensive measures, because obviously catching a scout who is moving at 35% slower rate is going to be a very, very easy task for basically any unit. I'd love to see how much 35% is in like effectively, but I would say like probably a melee unit can catch up to this, like a spearman or an archer can probably chase down a scout and slaughter them. So now it's going to require quite a bit more thinking to actually get those scouts to gather all those deer carcasses back and carry them back home. Very big change to horsemen, +1 ranged armor, allowing them to raid, also fight off archers effectively. So I think again it's going to be a slight nerf to the English, who are kind of very, 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 very difficult to punish in feudal. I think this is going to mean that +1 ranged armor plus whatever you can get from the blacksmith and the previous buff +1, of course, that they got before. I think it's going to mean that horsemen are going to be relatively sturdy, and I think they might also be able to dive under the range of towers and TCs, which is obviously very good because they were kind of garbage. I do like this quite a bit. HRE just getting 2 bug fixes. I'm not really sure if HRE are in a good place now. I don't think they'll be in a better place, because HRE did actually quite nicely benefit from those proscouts as well to get the stable economy under that Aachen chapel. So it might be a small nerf to HRE actually, which is already quite struggling quite a bit. Though obviously with some other changes to our civs, the dynamics of our oddie matchups will probably shift quite a bit. And the prelate getting stuck while inspiring would also get kind of fixed. I think that's quite a decent change. Now, horsemen, no, the Rus are actually getting quite a few nerfs once again. So warrior monks actually are going to move slower and carrying a relic, which is a very big nerf to Rus, because this means they can be very nice to get caught up with by any mounted unit really. So you have to really think about the pathing now with your warrior monks if you want to obviously secure those relics. Now, it's going to be also a big change to horse archers. They'll attack slower. Fire rate is going to be changed. So it is going to mean they probably will be way, way weaker. There was also a kind of a bug before, right, where they were attacking 1.5 attack speed. I'm not really sure what this does then, but it seems that they'll be obviously attacking slower, meaning their DPS is going to go down, and they'll probably just change into a kind of mobile raiding unit, instead of just being this kind of ultimate solution to basically every single matchup that Rus might have. So I do think that's a good change. Obviously, I've been actually playing Rus quite a bit, playing different units than horse archers as well, because people just expect them all the time, and you can obviously counter what they're trying to counter you with. So, but I do think that's obviously a very well-deserved nerf. I'm not really sure about this, because that was quite a unique thing for the Rus, getting the ability to carry relics back home. Because they don't get any big benefits from relics alone, but they do carry them very fast with the warrior monks. So I'm not really sure about this. I don't like it too much, because it just kind of takes away from the uniqueness of the ability to kind of secure at least 4 relics if you're playing correctly. I think that's not the nicest thing in the world. I don't like this too much. Obviously, I'm not really sure how much 25% is going to effectively mean, but it seems quite rough. Horse archers also will no longer receive additional attack speed and additional damage from the incendiary arrows technology, which is weird. I think that they mean that kind of they were receiving more than they were supposed to. I would wager this is the case. Though we'll actually have to see how it turns out. Now, I thought it was Mongol. Shit, those are Mongols. Okay, starting would decrease by 50, meaning they do actually have a slight issue now because they can no longer just kind of effectively tower rush you from minute 1, especially with the second change coming up with the outpost cost increased to 100 wood. It's going to be way more difficult, and obviously it's going to be way more expensive for the Mongols to just tower rush you relentlessly. Of course, they still do not need to drop a house or two in feudal, so they can still build those without any big expenditures. Still, that is going to mean that if you build an uvu, you are going to spend a lot of wood, meaning also that getting the barracks up, for instance, or getting a stable up early is going to be relatively more expensive. And then, of course, the outpost cost increasing as well means that the wood economy for Mongols is going to shift drastically, and getting early units out to harass you in Dark Age is going to be way more difficult. I like this because Mongols were obviously overpowered. I think like if you can handle their early game now with those changes, things are going to be probably better. Not certain how much it's going to change, but I do think that this is going to be a nice shift, especially those kind of early rushes. Maybe securing docks against Mongols is going to be easier because it just kind of those small changes mean that there's like a nice timing opening now for you to get a tower up before first units show up. I think that's a good start. That's a good change overall. Now there are also some nice changes. So the exploit where it was possible to own multiple uvus is gone, and also the Mongol Cognate Palace can be packed correctly. Now there are also some changes to Delhi Sultanate. So it's going to be explosive base research time is going to be increased, which means I think they're going to try to even out some technologies, right? Which is quite good, I think, overall. And you can see that those are actually nerfs to some extent. I'm not really sure what they're doing here because Delhi don't need nerfs. So those are actually just so piety. I think that's kind of one of those basic pieces of research. 135 seconds. I'm going to very quickly check piety actually. So piety AOE 4. Let me just very quickly see what piety actually does because I have no idea whatsoever. Piety is going to be the tech that increases hit points of religious units by 40%. It's useless, relatively useless anyway, so I'm not sure this is a big change because it's not a very frequently done tech anyway. Obviously, Spearman will activate this Spear ability correctly, very good stuff. So keep tech times are no longer increased while in the influence of Mosque, so keep is actually going to be slower to research stuff with. Explosives based research time is increased to 900 seconds, which is quite big again of a change. Chaser cannons based research time increased to 1,350 seconds, which is again very rough, I think, for them. But they're actually buffing some stuff. So Hardened Spearman gonna research faster. Sanctity is gonna research faster, meaning that you can probably start getting those relics and sacred sites, especially from the map, earlier than you know just getting towards the Castle Age. So it's actually pretty nice. 90 seconds early game is a big change. So this means you can obviously get going towards the sacred site early on. Herbal medicine based research time reduced again, and honed blades are going to go to 300 seconds. So the men at arms are going to get like a very big change actually. So that's going to be very decent for those infantry units of Delhi. But I don't think those are good changes. Like, I mean, they got kind of shafted here. So I'm not really sure about this. Obviously, the Spearman getting a slight buff is good. I'm not necessarily sure about this. I think Delhi needed like a nice buff to certain techs, like especially the Imperial. It's very rough right now for them to get going. Now, Chinese are gonna see lots of nerfs to those pesky fire lancers. You know, cost increased by roughly 40 food. It's not that big of a deal, but they're also getting nerfed, right? So fire lancers in Castle Age, those are gonna get the health increase, but their AoE damage will be lower, so just 50% with those explosions, and the torch damage also is gonna be decreased to 36 from 51. Going down here, the Imperial fire lancers again, nice buff to their HP, which is I guess quite okay, and again. The charge is going to be going down, the weapon damage is going to go down, and charge weapon AoE will again be retaining that value. Torch damage is going to be reduced to 40. So roughly they'll be weaker against buildings in Imperial than they used to be in Castle, which is I think quite substantial. And this is the end of this patch notes actually, so we don't see that many changes for now. Those are just kind of some of those screaming issues. I don't think we saw anything related to scout animation cancelling, for instance, which I think was quite a big deal. I do not actually mind it personally. I do think that those are Actually, not bad. That's not a bad mechanic overall. So they're just trying to deal with this kind of outstanding issues for now. I think that's kind of a good start, but I do believe that some professional players and some kind of very invested streamers will also have something to say about the scout auto attack resets. Personally, I actually don't mind this. It's kind of micro focused bit of early game that you can actually just exercise if you have good micro to gain a small advantage or sometimes even win the game under certain circumstances, right? See Marine Lord versus Mista in those semifinals of the previous series. You can check it out on my channel, by the way, where I think Marine Lord managed to win within 7 minutes of the game, basically with a few scouts. So I do think that's all those changes are very good. I do not mind many of those, other than obviously the Delhi weirdo things. I don't think they have actually backfixed much for Delhi, and Delhi are struggling with a few bugs, but they actually did nerf a few things. And obviously Honed Blades that's actually a very big change, because this means you can actually get that upgrade before going late Imperial, right, which is obviously great. But I'm not really sure about this. I do think we have to see how big of a difference those carcasses make, obviously, and how big of a nerf this is, because it's hard to read this out from those patch notes. With fire rate changed from 2 to 2.5, I would wager that those attack speeds of horse archers were working as intended. So yeah, I'm kind of baffled by this one, but overall, good stuff. I think that's a nice kind of set of changes, especially these two here, like horsemen getting less useless and scouts getting kind of nerfed for the professional scouts tech. I think these two are very, very big. Guys, this is it for today. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy yourselves indeed, please consider subscribing and following. See you around. And obviously check out our videos. Join us for streams. Yada yada yada. You know the drill. See you, people.